Hey guys, Joe here. Thanks for checking out another video on the channel. First one with the mic. Yeah. Hey, in today's project, what do you say we take this Dell and try to make it as fast as my custom PC? That's right, a Dell versus my custom PC. What do you say we dig into it? This is a PC that I picked up in a bundle of 4 computers. That's right, 4 computers for $40. 2 of them I wanted, but I wound up having to take all 4 of them in order to make the deal. This one supposedly is powered by an i5 processor, and it had Windows 7, but the hard drive, I threw that away immediately. Let's go ahead and open her up. Inside, you'll see the CPU cooler has been removed. I'm cleaning it, but I also wanted to verify that it was in fact an i5-3570. This is a 4-core, 4-threaded processor running in the 3.4 to 3.7 gigahertz range. Not bad for a cheap processor. Immediately to the right of it, you'll see 4 sticks of RAM. This is 1866 DDR3 RAM, however it's only running at 1600 megahertz. You'll also see I pulled the drive cage out of this computer case because it was in the way. This big block is gone now. I went ahead and drilled out the rivets underneath to free up all that room. What this does, as you can see by my hand, is allow me to run long cards. However, when I have a long card in here, it's going to interfere with both the front USB as well as the SATA connectors. So I'm going to have to come up with a creative solution for that. I'm thinking vertical mount. It's quite dirty inside too. Yuck. Looking at the rear fan, that is dust and a bunch of cloth. So it probably sat on a floor, but also it's full of dust, and that is not good to breathe in. Make sure you wear a mask when you're cleaning this stuff because that is literally the floating flecks of dead people. And trust me, you do not want that in your lungs. I've had it happen and I suffered for days. The overall layout is pretty standard for a micro ATX board, which is really good because it's going to allow us to do things like change out this power supply with a standard 4-pin CPU and 24-pin ATX power supply. We can change it out for a much newer power supply. Here it is a couple of days later, and as you can see, it's sitting next to my computer in a different case. Hey, how are you? And we are going to be trying to see what we can do about making this computer boot up and run well. Inside, you'll see I've made the first few modifications, such as going in and putting the CPU cooler back on, which is really good because it's clean now, so it should be able to keep it cool. Very low wattage at like 30 watt CPU, so it's not going to require a lot of wattage, but you'll also see I still have the 32 gigs of RAM because why not go overkill? Yes, and it looks cool in the system. Moving down, this is a EVGA GTX 750 Ti. This is the 2GB model. It's also the OC model. That's why, as you can see, it is running an additional 6-pin power connector. Not all of these use that. This one does for overclocking purposes, and I've overclocked it a little bit. Moving up, I've added a 450 watt power supply because of the standard ATX and 4-pin CPU power connectors. I was able to add a much more powerful PSU to this guy. You'll also see I cleaned the entire system out. I really don't like it when it's dirty. This card has been around for a while. You've seen it in other videos. However, I don't believe I talked about it too much. I really like EVGA, so I've collected a lot of their cards, and this happens to be one of the last ones that supports Maxwell, thus making it a okay choice for a system of this low quality. You'll see here I had to modify the front with a zip tie in order to keep the front panel on. Zip ties for the win, baby! For storage, we have a 240 gigabyte SSD, which is plenty for the operating system, as well as 1 or 2 games. You don't need a whole lot of storage in here. On the back here, you'll notice that I zip tied a vertical GPU bracket from a Thermaltake P3, mainly because I knew that we were going to have to vertically mount stuff. No clue what I was just pointing at, but what we're going to do now is just kind of test the system. So for testing purposes, we're going to move that out of the way, and then we will just run it the way you see it here. I'm not putting the side panel on it, and we'll just run it the way it is. I don't run the side panel on most of my PC builds, to be completely honest with you. But yeah, let's go ahead and button her up and fire her up. I bought this case from a friend very cheaply, and I'm kind of regretting it. It doesn't have enough room. I don't actually like its layout. I thought they were bigger. Looking at the inside of it, you'll see that it barely has enough room to fit a 360mm radiator, and that's only because I forced it in there. Yeah, this case is not staying around. I'll be upgrading back to my Phanteks case as soon as I decide the layout. Here we are boot looping. The first 3 times it boot looped, I think it was because I changed a lot of stuff, including the memory, the PSU, the GPU, and the hard drive. But I believe now it's going to boot. Here it is going to the splash screen, which is good. So we're just going to have to wait for a few minutes while it boots up. The intrusion detection never worked on this computer, and I don't really care. Yeah. Here we are in the BIOS, and you can see that it's actually incredibly locked down, but here is the information you need. 32 gigs of 1600 megahertz DDR3 SD RAM. I could put faster RAM in it, but the RAM that's in it is already 1866, and it's only running at 1600 megahertz, so that really doesn't make any sense, pardon me. Looking up here, the BIOS version is quite old, so I'll probably update that as well. Let's go ahead and scroll down a little bit, look at the boot sequence, all that fun stuff. Now we're going to move on to some performance. And I do say performance in the loosest sense. All we can do is change things like speed step, which causes the CPU to run at its max speed at all times. So you do want that on, or excuse me, disabled. And then you want C states disabled as well, because C states allow the CPU to ramp up and down between tasks, so make sure to turn this off as well. By turning it off, you will ensure that the CPU locks into its fastest setting, so maximum turbo. That's why we're leaving turbo boost on, otherwise it would run at base frequency 100% of the time, and that's not something we want. Power management, can't really do anything in here. You can just look at the features it has, but let's go ahead and log into Windows. Here we are in Windows, and as you can see, this guy is actually running Windows 11. Yes, Windows 11. Here it is. You can see the CPU cores. We are running the 3570, and I believe we're running anywhere from 3.5 to 3.7 gigahertz, so there is a little bit of fluctuation, but we are up higher, and that is good for us. Ignore the activate Windows. I don't have it hooked to the internet. I didn't notice it at first, and the Wi-Fi wasn't actually connecting. So yeah, what we're going to do now is close this. We're going to run a couple of benchmarks and see where we land. Ignore that. I don't have the smart audio hooked up, so we'll be right back with this. Here we go. Cinebench R15, as you can see here on hardware monitor, we're actually running and idling at about 36 degrees with a max of 46 degrees. It's not going to get much hotter than that, mainly because of the fact that the CPU is limited to the wattage it can run, but we are locked at its highest rated speed. So we're going to go ahead and get this ready to run, and we will go ahead and knock it out of the park. Anytime, Joe, click that button. Come on, man. Yep, you can point all you want. There we go. 4 cores running fast. This literally took a minute and 20 seconds to run, and I've condensed it down so that you can see it in a faster way. Multi-core, man. Here we come to the end, and the score is a 474 CB score. That is not terrible. A 7500T runs about the same score in a mini PC. Here we are trying to load 3D Mark, and look at that. Updates. I love updates. Updates are fun. We're going to wait for this update, and when we come back, we're going to run a Firestrike. So, you know, enjoy the wait. Oh, here we go. I ran a Firestrike even though I know that the 750 Ti is not really a strong card. It's not really designed to run Firestrike. It's more for like a Night Raid or lower end graphic situation, but I just wanted to see if it could run at its full speed. And the one thing I'll point out is 99 to 100% utilization means that there is nothing holding this card back. So the CPU, while being basic, is enough. Here are the results from the Firestrike test. As you can see, we have a graphics score of 5,141, a physics score, which is the CPU, of 6,540, and a combined score of 1,915. 4,524 being the fire score is not terrible for the equipment we have in here, but it is not a very good score in general. You're going to get less than 30 FPS in Battlefield. So that ain't good, son. It's not good. No, let's close this. And we're going to run, I believe, Spider-Man Remastered. It's been a little bit since I did this. All right, here we are in the game. As you can see, I have it at 1080p. Everything is very low, and I normally use a controller. It's not plugged in, so please ignore my really crappy web swinging. It averaged somewhere in the low to mid-20s. However, from the fraps that I was running also in the background, it made a paltry 22 FPS. It had a low of 12 FPS. Actually, point ones were about 3 to 6, but depending on which run I was doing, it was pretty bad. But that was because of the little stutters when you jump off of a building. Eee! So that is this system as it sits right now. It actually is quite usable the way it is sitting. It has a quad-core i5. It needs some stuff to be faster, and we will be addressing that in a future video. However, for a budget home gaming something PC for a youngster who doesn't have a lot of money, if you're going to try to do something, you might as well start with a computer that has most of the components already in it. I believe in recycling, I believe in upselling and upscaling, so what we're going to be doing is moving forward trying to build this up. But let's talk about cost now. The total cost for the system was about 99 bucks. How it breaks down is 10 bucks for the system. The EVGA 750 Ti was a massive $25. The PSU was free because I got that from a computer bundle. 240 gig SSDs are available for roughly $19, and the 32 gigabyte kit of RAM was $45 on eBay. Depending on where you're buying, it might be higher, it might be lower. So the total for this build was a massive $99. Not bad. If you want to come back for the next video, and I encourage you to, we're going to be adding some parts to this computer, one component at a time. This will allow us to go ahead and try to make this computer run and actually be functional in 2023, because we all need to save some money. The economy sucks. Everybody needs to penny pinch and maybe have some fun at the same time. So depending on what we do, it may be good, it may not be good. You're just gonna have to come back and see what happens. So don't forget to like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Come back next time while I shut this down, and as always, I'll talk to you later.